This time I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rey Torres. He's a representative of Trooper Velez's family. He's going to have some words for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Jack. Can you all hear me in the back? Okay. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I would like to take a moment to just have the families of Robert Peters, Thomas Tipton, and Donald Sample to please stand so you could be recognized. And last but not least, my aunt, my uncle, my cousins, my mom and dad, the Velez family. Will you please stand? Okay. You know, it's something that we wake up each morning and sometimes we take things for granted. And as Chief was saying, these police officers don't know what they might be getting into when they wake up in the morning. They go, they put that badge on, they head off to work. There's no telling what they're going to have to encounter. And when they get home, that's a blessing. Just to lay their heads on a pillow to go to sleep, that's a blessing because they don't know what could happen. We've heard, what was it, some 50-something officers were killed this year. And the thing is that we tend to hear the bad about cops, but we don't really hear about the good too much, do we? A lot of people just seemingly love the bad. You see things about this cop did something here that was inappropriate, or this one did that, and it's viral. It's all over the place, isn't it? But what about a cop who stops a lady? She's kind of afraid. Oh, I don't know, what did I do? And he tells her these words. He tells her, ma'am, it's a very hot day today, and I saw you driving your car, and I would like to give you this ice cream cone. The lady starts crying. Did that go viral? No. Oh, but let him have shot someone, and somebody be taping and egging the crowd on. Next thing you know, that's viral. Yes, there are good and bad and ugly no matter where we go, but you can't just say all are like that. You know, the chief was saying it is a sacrifice. My cousin, Kenny Velez, oh, you can forget the V part on the program. They used to call him that as a sort of nickname, Kenny V, but he really didn't have a middle name. It was simply Kenny Velez. He did this for about 26 years. And for the last 5.5 years, he was staying with my aunt and uncle. Unfortunately, he had a divorce, but it happens. But he was staying with them. And my aunt always prayed for him when he would go off to work. She'd get up, give him some coffee. He makes his lunch, and off he goes. And I remember when I would go over and visit them, and my aunt's making coffee, I could hear these booming footsteps coming down. And it's Kenny. And we would give each other a hug. We'd sit down at the table. And if a conversation could have been formed out of something, we talked it. And then my aunt would give us coffee. Kenny was a wonderful man. Kenny is, well, my aunt and my mom were so close, and they still are. We grew up together. His siblings, my siblings and us, we all grew up together. Kenny was the youngest of 4. And to me, I like to say, as a gimmick, we're cousins in name only because we really feel that we were siblings because we were always together. Mischief together, adventures together. Oh yeah, there were times we got in trouble here and there. I mean, it's expected. And my cousin Kenny is 4 years younger than I am. He died he was age 48 at the time. But he was like the youngest here for the time being before my brother and other began to come. My cousin Benji is deaf, and he's a little bit older than him. And somehow Kenny convinced them, they were little, to hide in this shanty. So my aunt and uncle, they're looking for them. Oh my God, where are they? And then, my cousins, they also go to look. And they're hiding in the shanty. I think about 2 hours went by. Maybe they poked their head once in a while. And how did they were so successful about that? But I'm a parent myself, and I could imagine if I'm looking for my child or children, and I can't find them, you as parents are going to think the worst. Are you not? You're going to think the worst. Well, I think that Kenny poked his head out the window, and David, he couldn't come today, said, there they are. Well, let's put it this way. Kenny and Benji wasn't too thrilled to meet the welcoming committee. But you know, as parents, we worry about our children, and that you think the worst. Kenny, one thing I could say about him is he loved life. Well, we all do, but he stuck out like a sore thumb, but in a good way. I think that when God created Kenny, he broke the mold there because it's not another Kenny. I mean, there could be replicas of me or others, but he was different. And we always were together. And my aunt comes over to visit, and we were outside playing in the yard. The only time I'd seen this then and now, only one time, my cousins could testify. We're playing, we're like in a group. Next thing you know, there was these peculiar bugs. They looked like they were lightning bugs, but they were about maybe this big. And they were flying around us for some reason. They were just going around us. Well, we older ones panicked, and so we went to the porch. But poor little Kenny, being 2, 3 years old, he's there all by himself crying. Didn't know what to do, and they're circling around him like vultures. And my poor aunt had to run out there to get him. And when you think of stories of your loved ones, you probably could write a book on them. I mean, I could probably spend all day telling Kenny stories. So I'm just going to pick a few. But anyway, one of them, and probably my most memorable of him, was we were at this church function. We were going to go and have like what they call a recreation. And so we were at this house. Benji's playing pool with this one guy. My aunt and my mom are sitting down talking to some of the church ladies. And I don't know how Kenny got his hands on this, but Kenny had found a smelling salt. Now, I guess I'm always his guinea pig because I had things happen, and in this case, he found this, and he's trying to explain to me how it works. So he puts this smelling salt right underneath my nose, and all I can remember is just, and all of a sudden that ammonia just went right up into my nose, and I couldn't breathe. I'm like, and so my aunt and mom, they jumped up. I think my aunt got to me first, and my face is beet red, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? Poor Kenny, he's feeling terrible. Oh, my cousin might die because of me. And okay, I'm getting hit in the back next time. Okay, I'm getting the air. And Kenny, I think for 2 or 3 days, he felt terrible about it. But you know something? What would I give right now for Kenny to crack that smelling salt under my nose again? Another time we were playing baseball. Now, Kenny loved baseball. He was from the little leagues, and he was going up. Very good ball player. And so we were playing at this park with church folk, and then these other kids started coming. And, Kenny was slamming doubles, triples. And in one particular point, Kenny hit a triple. He goes, I take it back. He hit a double, and my dad hit the ball. He's on first. Kenny goes on third. I'm up. And so I hit the ball. This guy catches it. I'm still running first. Kenny's running home. Dad's running to second base. The guy wanted to do a double play. He's a left-hander. Throws his softball, hits my dad dead in the eye, breaks his orbital bone. Dad goes crashing. I saw what happened, and I'm on first base, and I'm running. Kenny was at home, and Kenny beat me there. And so we end up taking Dad to the hospital. Kenny did not want to leave our side. He ends up calling my aunt and said what happened. And he got to stay the night, keep her posted. He was a caring person. Kenny was the kind of guy that if it's cold, right now I'm wearing his shirt. He'd give you the shirt off his back. So he gave me this shirt so I can wear it today. But he was that kind of person. He cared about people. He'd see little kids crying. He would go over there and try to comfort them. As he was a trooper, because he loved the sports, he coached baseball teams. And these kids would love him because it's like he would mentor them. He was more than just a coach. He would mentor them. If they would get discouraged, he would sit down and talk to them with love and encourage them, get them all psyched up so they can go. Kenny was well loved by the community as well as the troopers. And you know, the chief was saying how the families sacrifice. And I had mentioned earlier that my aunt, when my cousin would leave, she would say a prayer for him while he's leaving and throughout the day that he would come home. Well, on September 15, 2020, it was, 2016, I take it back, he was leaving the house. And my aunt said, you know, it seemed like he was really happy. Not that he was a sad person, but he was very, very happy. And he packs his lunch, he's getting ready to head on out. He gives his mom a kiss, and she says, I'm going to be praying for you, son. And he gets in the cruiser, and he leaves, and my aunt's watching through the window. Little did my aunt realize that was the last time she was going to see her son alive. Now, later on in the day, Kenny calls my aunt and my uncle and talks with them. I think my aunt was the last one. Say, hey, what's going on, Mom? What you doing? Oh, I'm over here folding some clothes. I'm going to put some in your dresser. Okay, Mom, well, I'll be coming home. Little did she realize that was the last time she was going to hear that precious voice. My cousin Yvette and cousin David receives a text from him around that time, before, after he spoke with his parents. Little did they realize that was the last text they were going to get. I'm at home, and my mother, not my mother yet, I saw her in a little bit, but my wife calls. I was not feeling good that day, but I was getting better as I was taking meds. My wife calls and tells me, Ray, I got something to tell you. I just got off the phone with your mom. She's a wreck. And the first thing I'm thinking, you got to be strong for this. First thing I'm thinking, something happened to my dad. That's the first thing I'm thinking. And she goes, Kenny got killed. And for 3 minutes, I could not speak. And finally, you know, I talked to her. I called my supervisor, told him I don't know what's going to go down, but you need to know. And I met up with the family. And I'll never forget, and Auntie, I asked, you excuse me for this. She sees my mom since, like I said, they're very, very close. She runs to my mom and hugs her so tight, and she's crying. And she's saying, I could still feel him moving in my womb. I could imagine when her and my uncle got the news, and they were told he died. I could almost envision how they reacted. And all I kept thinking is, they didn't deserve this. We don't deserve this. Why? Kenny had, from what I understand, 1 hour left of his shift when he was struck down. A few days or maybe a couple of weeks to retire. He was that close. That close. And unfortunately, we lost him. And we've seen all kinds of ups and downs and things that shouldn't have happened. But one thing that God has blessed us with, who I call God's angels. And these were people that somehow did something for us, whether it was a big way or a little way that we would not expect, and they did it. A few days after Kenny died, a little boy writes a note, goes to my aunt's house to give it to her, telling her that he's sorry for her loss. He had to be like 7, 8 years old. When we were at the trial, how many people were so wonderful to us? We go to this restaurant because they had Kenny's hat. Now I understand they got the whole uniform and I want to see it, but I'm talking to the main owner and I'm telling the staff, that were working that night in the restaurant, you guys did a beautiful job. And this beautiful girl named Megan said, she was starting to cry. I want to give you a hug. And she came from back there to give me a hug. I said, isn't this amazing? And just recently, while I work at Lorain County Community College, and I was doing some videotaping and what they call a career fair. Every year they have that for students. There's business people, and there was the Highway State Patrol there. And there was a patrol lady. And I said to her, I hope you don't mind, but I just wanted to stop by to say hello. And as I said that, I started crying. Because I told her Trooper Velez was my cousin, and she got up, went around to give me a hug. And, I'm crying in her shoulders, and I'm thinking, wow, isn't this something? And she said to me these words when we pulled back. She still had her hands on my arms here. She said, we have a brother and sisterhood in law enforcement. But you know what? Since you're his cousin, you're his family. So therefore, you all that are family are a brother and sisterhood to all of them. So sometimes with the bad comes good that we don't know about. But then there's bad. And I'm only going to briefly mention this because I don't want to think about the evils that happen. But in the social media, and I was telling you about how they brought up my cousin. And there were those who honored him. There were those who offered their condolences, but there were some trolls that got in there, and it was some horrible stuff. It got so horrible that my own supervisor had to tell me, Ray, for your own sake, get off the social media. And one of my coworkers had said, you know, Ray, some people just don't have a life. So the only rise that they get is to start up, see, because they're behind a computer. Nobody knows who they are. They want to stir things up. And then all of a sudden the trolls come out. And before you know it, it's a carbuncle of nothing but negative garbage. Some of the stuff that they have written, and I won't say it, I have actually questioned, are these really human beings? Because I'm going to tell you something, and you answer me. If I was one of those people who hated cops or didn't trust them or whatever was my reason, and I'm in trouble, who am I going to call? Oh, I want to hear it. Law enforcement. I want to hear it from you guys. Who am I going to call? Oh, I can't hear you. Who are you going to call? Law enforcement, huh? So I could sit there and I could write terrible things about the police force. Oh, they're this, they're that. But let me get into trouble. Somebody breaking into my house. I'm stuck in the highway out there alone, scared. Who am I going to call? Law enforcement. So it's in my heart to say that we have to have respect for these men and women. They put on that badge, and they don't know if they're coming home. I mentioned that earlier. They go to their house, it's a blessing to see their family, hug them and kiss them, and to go to bed and start it over again. Each day we pray and we say, God be with them. God be with them. And all of us right now, you know, we lose a loved one. Like in this case, you lost your loved one, and I lost my cousin. We lost Kenny. And they declared him a hero. And I'm grateful for that because I'd rather he be a hero than he would have been somebody who had fallen from grace. And then that would have been their legacy. So, but I think that the hero part is just the tip of the iceberg. What about the rest of the iceberg? I was telling you a little bit about Kenny. Kenny was a hard worker, loving, faithful. He loved his family, and he loved the community. I like for people to know who he was that made him the hero. He died the hero because he was a hero, even if he didn't know it. And all of us, whether we realize it or not, are on a journey called the hero's journey. We had a catastrophe happen. It changed our lives. Now we're going through this journey where we're lonely, we're scared, we're fearful, we're asking, why? But one day, we'll reach the end. And we, like our fellow officers, and like Kenny, and like your family, your loved ones, we will create a legacy that is there to make a difference in the lives of others. Whether it's in a big way or in a small way, every last one of you will do something in honor of that family member to keep the legacy alive. And with that, I want to conclude with a dream that I had. We all had dreams of Kenny, and I'm sure you have dreams of your loved ones. You guys may have dreams of the fellow people that you worked with. Well, anyway, I had one. It was that day, just moments before he was going to get hit. And I was told, and it's like I could see the area, and I could even see him. And I was told, if you were able to go back in time and ask for one thing, what would it be? Well, I'm seeing Kenny there, knowing what we all went through. I said, well, I want to rescue Kenny. I'll go over there and tell him, you're going to sit in that cruiser. You're not going to go and get over here. You're staying there. He said, you can't do that. I said, well, I thought you said anything that I want, I could get. No, the destiny has to happen. What would you want? And I'm thinking. Then it dawned on me, when Kenny was there, and first responders and others were coming to him, he tried to talk, but he couldn't because he had blood in his throat. But he didn't have family because by the time we all heard what happened, he already had passed. So I said, there's one thing that I want. Can I be there by his side and hold his hand and say, Junior's here? That's what they call me, Junior. It's okay, I'm going to stay with you the whole time. One of his hands lost a thumb. I don't care if it was that hand. I would have told him, we all love you. I'm going to stay with you to the end. The ambulance will come, please, I got to be with him. They take him into the emergency and probably in the surgery, put the scrubs on me, I got to be with him. But that would have been my one wish. That I could have been by his side. Because Kenny had to go without none of us. It's not our fault, it's just the way it was. Always, always carry that loved one in your heart. Always do things that you honor them. Don't ever do anything, even in a small way, that would bring shame to them. You all stood up. Guess what? Now you all are one village. Everyone that's lost a loved one, that's a police officer, that makes you family to the families and to the police all around. We are all one village. Kenny, and for your loved ones, you lived your lives as heroes, and you became heroes when the time came. All that did was just cap the legacy. You are a hero yesterday, today, and forever. Thank you for your service, and for the families, God bless you all.